welcome all for coming. I'm Karen Howard Redding, Select Board. I know most of you here, and I do appreciate you coming. And this is really brief, but so important. And this was a project. Okay, sorry, I'm going to be really bad and like.
No, it's okay.
The artist from Surette. Sorry.
Yeah. Hi, everyone.
Many of our schools.
Yeah, we should have moved to Reading, my wife and I. We should have moved when we were starting our family.
So true.
Well, first of all, I meant to raise our kids, right? Because we're becoming empty nesters. What I'm going to say is, so many of my friends live in Reading, and they've brought up their families here. And I've been to all the schools. It's like my favorite town. I'm from Arlington originally. My wife's from Medford, and we lived in Medford when we first got married. We wanted a quieter, a little more suburban place to raise our kids. And we're in North Andover, which is still great. It's similar, right? But I have so many friends who live here. So I've been to every single one of the schools multiple times with my speed painting show, except for the high school, because I don't do high schools very often. I love K through 8. And what I do, in case you don't know, it's big. I made the whole thing up. It's 6-foot canvases, throwing paint, and out of it comes portraits of historical figures. And the kids are like, whoa. I mean, I'm covered with paint by the end of the show. It's fun, there's music, and there's video screens. It's different, it's unique. But then as we get them sort of trusting me, then it's positive messages. It's messages which I think kids always need to hear. It's that you matter, you're special, you're on earth for a reason, you're more capable than you think, you're smarter than you think, you're more brilliant than you think. So the encouragement is just to shine as bright as you can. So I've been to 4,000 schools. It's my 29th year, which landed me on Today Show, Tonight Show, Good Morning America, Oprah. And then Disney saw me on Oprah. And when my favorite artist, whose name is Thomas Kincaid, passed away, he was also a Disney artist, I took his spot. So I said the first thing when I interviewed with Disney is, you're not going to take schools away from me, are you? And they said, we see what you do. We know you're good at it. We know you make a difference. So no, you have to give us our 40 hours a week painting for their fine art galleries. Then you can do whatever else I want. So I still visit 5 schools a week, and it's my most rewarding thing. And I guess we don't want to tell Disney that, but it's more rewarding than Disney because, again, you never know what kids bring to an assembly, their home life, their background, maybe emptiness they have inside. And after I do my speed painting show, which is, it's not entertainment, it's inspiration. It's meant to fill their hearts. And kids come up to me after every single show, and there's someone who has tears, or they want to tell me a story. Their mother just passed just this morning. This little second grader, the father just passed away a couple months ago, and the kid really was gravitating towards my message, because it reaches deep in people's souls. So I'm really proud of that. So Reading's been great, and part of a Martin Luther King celebration we had maybe about 6, 7, 8 years ago was for me to donate 2 paintings. Well, I think you probably paid me. I shouldn't say donate. Martin Luther King and Abraham Lincoln. So then now we're adding 2 women, of course, which is to balance it up. So I said, I need to repaint Martin Luther King. I need to repaint Abraham Lincoln because I've gotten so much better in 8 years. So the original speed painting style, which would take like an hour, right? Martin Luther King. That's kind of my antiquated style. Now that I work for Disney, I love that realism. To me, it's just, they call it hyper-realism, which is what this is now, which is installment number 2. Then we're going to substitute out MLK, and then we're going to do a 4th one, which I guess is a surprise. So here we go.
Well, if you want, you can tell the audience.
Harriet Tubman's going to be the 4th. Yeah, which you all chose. It wasn't my choice. They're great choices, but I wanted you all to be happy, so.
Well, you're right, it's a little surprise. We have Ann Lander here, who's from our Attorney General's office, who is also an attorney who, she and I initially, when we hired Fidel as our town manager, sat down and talked about what we could do to bring more women into the select board room and do our best to demonstrate our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion in some small way. The visual arts, since we already had those 2 pictures.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, thank you. If I can just be completely honest, this is my 29th year as a portrait artist. 29 years ago, guess what? Schools would buy men after my show, George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Martin Luther King, and there was just no issue with that, really. because that's just kind of the way it was not long ago. And then of course now we're catching up to speed. And every one of those schools that I've been to, and I return for the second or third time, they're like, okay, we need to balance it out now. I'm like, we're finally catching up. Because my show for 29 years has been equality and celebrating diversity and so forth. So here it is now, all schools all across America, they're like, okay, we have 4 men in our hallway. We need 4 paintings of women. But isn't that interesting? Not too long ago, no one really questioned that, which I don't like, but I'm just saying in hindsight, like, we're catching up to speed. So this is great. So I'm just being honest with that this is obviously a good thing. I mean, it's awesome.
So maybe we should have you do the honors in case it gets knocked off the easel, and then we have Anne say a few prepared words for us.
So the Martin Luther King probably took, let's just say, an hour. I don't remember. Abraham Lincoln must have taken at least 100 hours. And I use a brush the size of a needle. It's the smallest brush you can buy. And one of my secrets, and I don't know if I want to say the secret, but I use a magnifier with a light around it. So I spend like hours seeing it so enlarged, and I can do every little eyelash, every little whisker. So that's why it becomes what you call hyperrealism. So this took 6 months. Yeah, I love her. And you know what actually was like, it killed me in this, is the detail in the chair. All if you wanted to see because you don't just do orange and green anymore. Now it's every fiber of the fabric. So that's what took most of the time. But it's a joy, it's a joy. It's always a labor of love. It's never work. And I'm so grateful to be able to do this for a living because, again, artwork is just a vehicle. What I want to do is, I want to connect with people, I want to uplift people, I want to make the world a better place. So that is what I am all about. It's my life's work. So thank you all so much.
Do you need me to hold anything?
I think I'm okay. Thank you, Karen. Well, thank you, Rob. This is extraordinary.
You're welcome.
It's truly an honor to be here today to help dedicate a portrait of one of my personal and legal heroes,
I'm sure.
the late and great Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, to adorn the walls of the Reading Select Board meeting room, or as we referred to it in my household while I served on the board, as Mommy's special room. And I'm happy to be here today with my older son, Michael, who, when he was just a very, very little boy, received an early gift from his Auntie M in the form of an RBG action figure. And in addition to being a very accomplished jurist, Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a mother, was a wife, married a person who was her intellectual and life partner, and coincidentally was an excellent cook. She loved opera, and her friendship with Justice Scalia was grounded by their mutual love of opera, and despite being ideological opposites and rivals, and their friendship was legendary. She strove for equality and justice for all, and she was revolutionary in what she accomplished in her life and career. Having Ruth Bader Ginsburg's portrait hang here will mean as much to those who appear before the Reading Select Board as to those who appear on it. Representation matters, as they say, and you can't be what you don't see. This beautiful portrait will be seen and will allow others to be seen in turn. And as Justice Ginsburg said in her own words, a question I am often asked: why does women's participation in numbers on the bench add to our judicial system? It is true, as Jean Coyne of Minnesota's Supreme Court famously said, at the end of the day, a wise old man and a wise old woman will reach the same decision. But it is also true that women, like persons of different racial groups and ethnic origins, contribute what the late Fifth Circuit Judge Alvin Rubin described as a distinctive medley of views influenced by differences in biology, cultural impact, and life experience. Our system of justice is surely richer for the diversity of background and experience of its judges. It was poorer when nearly all of its participants were cut from the same mold. Thank you to Select Board Member Karen Herrick for inviting me to be here today, to Town Manager Fidel Maltez for making all of this possible, and to Rob Surette for sharing your gift and your art with the world, and thank you, of course, to Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, so nice.
Can we get a picture of maybe with everyone that's in the room?